All right, so today we are going to talk about when a seller's thinking about putting their house on the market and meeting with agents. There's a lot of things that go into positioning a house correctly so that it actually sells versus just sit on the market for a long time. So if you're going through the interview process and you're wanting to use a data-based approach instead of guesswork and emotion, uh, your agent should be talking to you about things like buyer behavior, different pricing strategies, how to position the house so it becomes the obvious choice against the competition. Because let's face it, people comparison shop. And so it's important to understand all the different aspects that go into how buyers approach things. And also from the seller side, how you can position your house to align with buyer behavior. And then position the house at the right price point so it gets in front of the most possible buyers. So I'm going to walk you through some of the things that I show my sellers when I meet with them in the planning stages so we can figure out where to position the price of the house so it actually sells and they can get what they want. So this is just going to be an example here today. I'm not going to dive deep into the comps and things like that, but if you see this property here, it just hit the market today and it's a fresh listing. It's a beautiful home built in 2023. The square footage is approximately 1,664 and it's in Burleson. It's 3 bed, 3 bath on about 0.248 acres. And the price point is 390,000, which is a pretty decent price for homes here in Burleson area. Of course, there's new builds around that price too, so that's something that they're going to be competing against. So when you think about buyer behavior, what is a buyer going to, what choices do they have when they get on the market when they're comparing your homes to others? So competing against new construction is something definitely to take into consideration because they're going to be offering incentives and other things to attract buyers to go that route. And so if your price point is close to the new construction, that's definitely something to take into consideration. And then so if we jump over here, this is the subdivision this house is in, and there's 4 other active listings right now. And then these other red ones are going to be sold listings, and then pending for the purplish looking one, and the blue is going to be active option contract. So these two are actually in contract, and they're fairly close to the same price, that 390,000 mark, which is a good indicator. However, we don't know what they're actually going to sell for, and these both actually have pools. And so if we look at this list here, we can see here that 2 of these houses do have pools. So that's going to adjust the price, or yeah, see these 2 pendings here, by anywhere from like 10 to 20,000, maybe even higher, 25, depending on how nice the pools are, that you can subtract off that price. So right here, looking at just in that neighborhood, we can see that this house is listed on the higher end of the actives that are available. And then of the ones that are sold, the closest to it is 382. And we go in and look at these various sold properties, we'll find that not only do some of these have pools, so you can decrease it by 10 to 25,000 compared to this other home, but we also can see that the closest thing to it was 382. So right there, that tells me that they're listed a little bit high. So either they need to have some features and benefits that you just can't find in the other places, or in comparison, their house is going to be the last one to sell out of these 4 homes, unless there's something that makes their house stand out against the competition. And so when you take a deeper dive into that, you want to understand buyers and active buyer analysis so you can see where the current demand in the marketplace is right now. And so we can quickly see that the concentration of buyers is between 300,000 and 350. These 2 brackets are making up about 71% or so of the active buyers currently looking in Burleson, between that range. And then you can see that there is buyers on the higher end as well, but at 25 showings taking place in that range, it only makes up about 16%. So would you rather have a 16% chance of selling, or would you rather have a 71% chance of selling by positioning it correctly, using strategies like a price bracketing strategy that ensure that all these buyers are seeing your home. So different pricing strategies is going to allow you to maximize your exposure. And so a lot of agents, they'll make the mistake at pricing a home at just below one of these brackets that people in websites search by. So it's important to understand different pricing approaches to make sure that you're not missing out on potential buyers. And then, so if we jump into a list of houses in Burleson that are similar, you can see here, and this is a list of 2010 built houses and newer. So the wider you expand that year built range, of course, there's more. There's probably close to 62 properties available. So there's a lot more competing against. But from 2010 to 2025, you can see that there's 25 active homes in Burleson that are similar to this. And the prices vary, of course. And you can see some of the ones that have canceled that weren't able to sell. And when you get into the history, what these closed transactions are, you can see that there's only 2 that are above 190. And again, some of these have pools, and of course, I'm sure there's seller concessions on several of these. So it could be anywhere from 5 to 10,000 in seller concessions on some of these. And this price here won't reflect that until you go deeper into it. But this is just some of the things I wanted you to take into consideration that when you meet with agents and ask questions, to have them show you, they're not explaining to you buyer behavior and where that active buyers are currently looking. You don't know where it'd be best to position your house. So you pair the buyer demand with the supply information, the competition you're competing against, and you can quickly see, where would it make the most sense to be able to sell your house for the best possible price, have buyers competing over your home. And so in any case, you want to be going over all this information to make sure that you're not pricing your property just on guesswork.